I worked at a restaurant and I worked at a bank and a car dealership. Those are not the criteria you were looking for.
What's the strategy behind posting so often?
We went from 0 on TikTok to 185,000. We're recycling all the time and you're never going to catch it.
You're worried about the regrets that you would have if you were to slow down now.
Yeah, it's up to me to kind of like make or break like whatever I want to do.
How long did it take you to get to a point where you thought of it that way?
Probably like a year and a half, 2 years.
Does like the fabrication of content become like disingenuous in your head?
That's a good question.
Today, I sit down with Cameron Broadhurst, an amazing photographer and videographer and social media strategist for Taylor Chip. You might have seen some of his viral TikToks and reels where he goes around downtown and all over the world and asks people to rate their cookies. There are some serious characters in there. In this episode, we break down virality as a whole, but then also get into what are the ingredients that produce a piece of content that actually engages an audience. I think anyone who is into social media management, photography, or videography will find this super helpful as he breaks down like building blocks of story. At the very end of the episode, we talk about how fitness and creativity go hand in hand. See you in the deep end. Welcome back to the Silo Podcast. I'm here with
Cameron.
Dude,
Cammy B.
oh,
me.
That's him.
Cammy B.
He is him.
Yeah.
I know him as the Taylor Chip guy, also as a friend. We do some shoots together on occasion.
Yeah.
We're just starting to get into it, I guess. So
Yeah.
the relationship's kind of new. We're still dating. We're not engaged yet.
Not engaged yet. We went on a few dates though.
I think they went well.
Took you out to pizza.
I made a pizza.
Yeah.
Just Wednesday, I made a pizza. I just chopped that up. Yeah.
You did
So,
make a pizza.
dude,
Yeah,
it was actually
tell that story. We can tell that story. Well, so I have a friend who owns Crusoe's Pizza on Fruitville Pike. His name's Frank, and he's trying to get into the content game a little bit. So I helped him out one night. Brought Austin with me. Had a sketch idea where he just like asked a customer to make pizza for him because he's in a sling because he just got his shoulder done.
and I'm that customer.
And you are the customer. So you made your first pizza.
I made my first pizza. He critiqued it hard, but at the end of it, and this is what I told Katie at the end of the night, I said, he still said that he would give this to a customer.
Yeah.
So I did a decent enough job.
You did.
Even though I went from a very thin crust to a very thick crust to all the different things. And then I was cheese bay for a moment.
Yep.
So you're gonna have to look at that. And make sure that that's good.
Yeah,
good
after
to
you're done,
send over.
after you're done, he was like, "Do you want this?" And we're like, "No, we're good." He's like, "Oh, well, it's good enough." So I'm like,
I mean,
So
that's
hey,
all I'll say.
someone on Wednesday night got your pizza.
My hands were all over that pizza.
You
and
sauced that up.
that's freaking sauced it.
How's the
dude.
video coming?
All of them are good.
Yeah,
All of them
nice.
are ready to go. So you'll have them in your inbox.
Amazing.
I'm so pumped. But anyway, that's what we do. That's what we do together sometimes. And it's been super cool to get to know you as a person and how many connections that we've actually had. Like, because there is a few like people that we know separately, but now are together. And so one of them being like Taylor Chip. I mean, I don't know them personally, but you are known for being in their videos, being the guy on the streets, handing out cookies to people. Like,
it's true.
How did you get there? And like, what's your experience so far with them?
Well, so I've been there, I think like 3 or 4 years. I think April of 21 I started. But my experience with them, like I just applied on Indeed. My wife and I were living in Philly at the time. I had just like helping a friend try to open a music studio out there. And just other stuff we can get into about that whole story. But we didn't want to go back to where we grew up, the town that we were from. And we had some friends in Lancaster. And so I was trying to figure out what job to get. And so I started working at Fulton Bank for a little bit. Shout out Fulton.
Dude, who doesn't? I literally, my entire friend group has worked at Fulton.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So it's kind of
they
crazy.
hire everybody. No, but so I got a job there just to get things going. And then when COVID had happened, there's just like a lot of working in retail during COVID was super tough. Working at a bank during COVID, super tough because you're like literally wearing a mask, sitting next to like, a foot away from the other teller, or like, even when you're in your office by yourself, you still had to wear a mask. There was a lot of regulation stuff. And so just went through a little bit of a tough patch there for, 10 months or so. And just, I know I was always doing the video thing for friends and weddings and all that stuff.
What did that look like? Because obviously then you blossomed into what Taylor Chip is social media presence wise now, but like what did they see in you that brought you there?
That's a good question. Well, I didn't have a job, like the wedding thing, right? I was like always doing that since high school, photos, video. Anyone who's picked up a camera has probably done that. And like, it's always good money.
Yeah, that's what weddings are, right?
And it's like, oh, it's only a day, and you can make, $5,000 if you're good enough or whatever. And so like that was always there, but I had someone tell me that like you should never do anything you don't want to do for the rest of your life or whatever. So that was always in the back of my mind, and I was like, I can't lean into weddings all the time. So I was always getting like these day jobs.
Sure.
And my creative journey kind of started because I was in a band in middle school and high school. And it's funny to say, but that was like before Instagram.
Dang.
That was like when Facebook was like kind of just going, which is wild. So it's like, you think that you would, like I would have tons of content, like filming,
sure,
like band practices and stuff. But it's like, we weren't doing that back then. Like we didn't have social media, like share.
It was just
what
a band
the album
to be a
was
band.
Like. Yeah, it was just a band to be a band. And then, I didn't get, my very first phone was actually an iPhone. And so I didn't have a flip phone or anything. So I was just so amused by it. So I started taking content, for the band stuff, and then got into weddings with a DSLR. And so like I was always fiddling with cameras, and always enjoyed street photography and all of that stuff. And so then, when everything with Fulton was kind of like up in the air, kind of getting a little depressed and unhappy with like where I was, wanting to like make something out of my creative skills and not knowing what to do, I just like applied to 3 places on Indeed and got the acceptance from all 3 of them, and then Taylor Chip was one of them. So.
What was the actual? Well, tell me all 3. What were the actual job positions?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy because leading up to like getting these jobs for like a whole year or I think it was like 10 months, 12 months, something like that. Like I had this daily journal that like you would write what time you woke up, what time you went to bed. You'd have your 3 like affirmations for the day, or you have your 3 goals for the day, your affirmation, and then there's like a note section. And so like every day going into work, I'd start my day with just like writing 5 things that I wanted to accomplish by the end of the year. And one of them was, I always have like my LLC's Bear Media. And so one of them was like make Bear Media full time, see all 50 states, be a father, and buy a house. Were like 4 of them. And so like I just like kind of manifested or meditated on like these like desires of like wanting to get out of like my current situation. And that's what kind of like forced me to like start to apply and look for places. And and then those 3 were Taylor Chip, a second shooter for a wedding videographer, and then Logan Tremelin, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He has like a motocross company. So I applied to him as well. And I actually started working for the second shooter. We're still shooting together now. So whenever she needs me, I help her, and then got the Taylor Chip gig, and then said no to Logan only because the scheduling didn't work because it was traveling for motocross.
Yeah. From your perspective, what did Taylor Chip see in you? That like, what was your best piece of content that they were like, yeah, this guy could to come on for us?
Well, I guess at the time I had like family vlogs. I had music videos that I made with some friends, and then I had some wedding films.
Yeah.
None of them were like, anything that a business would want or whatever. So I remember on my cover letter, I was basically like, my resume doesn't show that I'm qualified for this position whatsoever, but like I really enjoy this stuff. It's like a passion of mine. So I promise that if you give me a chance, like I'm pretty sure it'll be a good decision.
Yeah.
I think that's what I put in the cover letter. Because most people are like, fluffing up their experience in a cover letter.
You're just being brutally honest.
I was like, my resume literally shows that I worked at a restaurant and I worked at a bank and a car dealership. It's like, if you're looking for someone to come and do your content, those are not the criteria you were looking for. So I was just like, straight up and honest. And, yeah, I don't know what they saw in me. I guess they liked my camera work. They liked my transitions or whatever. So
Well, then we'll transition into what does that look like when you got there? Like, what did you have to explain yourself, or
yeah.
did your work speak for itself once you got in there?
I remember I showed up to the interview after my bank job. So I was
Yeah.
in a full suit. And like at the time, Taylor Chip is like a year and a half old.
Yeah.
They're in this small market stand on Fruitvale Pike, and there's like construction all around. Like it's not a place where you'd wear a suit.
Sure.
It's not an interview where you should
Not
wear
at
a suit.
all.
And so I like walked in this like freaking like checkered gray suit. And I'm sure they're like, what the heck is this guy doing? Like, did he dress up for us?
Yeah.
And like, so I had to clarify right away, like, I'm coming from my day job. I'm not trying to over impress. But yeah, I think like I was hired for social media manager and customer service, because at the time, like,
So it was
Doug,
like split.
Yeah, it was split, because like Doug and Sarah at the time, they were managing the socials themselves. They probably had 8,000, 10,000 or something on Instagram and similar on Facebook. And so they're doing it all themselves. They're growing their company, and they're like, hey, we can't do this content thing anymore. We should find someone to help us with that. Yeah. But they also like didn't think it was a full-time thing either. So they're like, oh, we'll throw customer service in there. Yeah. So
no one ever thinks like social media is a full-time job until you actually want to grow and see how much work is put into it and how many hours you spend now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's wild. And, you know, it's, you got to feed the beast a little bit. So it's like, once you do get some success on socials or whatever, it's like, you need to be able to support that growth. So yeah, they saw it early. They had me come on. I did customer service for like maybe a year or something like that, while I was also posting 3 times a day and doing starting to do the man on the street videos. And then I think we got to the point where it's like, yeah, we need to like lean into socials full time. And so then we found someone else for customer service. And then I kind of, you know, did socials. And then just like that, I was doing what I guess I was writing down in my journal a year prior. So yeah.
Yeah, dude. I feel like a lot of people, if they've never seen you or seen Taylor Chip, know about those like street interviews and all over the place. What's like an experience from that like was just so off or different or weird?
Well, with the street videos, it kind of started with like, I don't know. I didn't make social media content. I made like music videos and wedding films and stuff.
Right. So you went from like a cinematic perspective.
And I really don't have a background in any of this either. Like I went to college for a finance major. So like I don't really, like I didn't understand how it worked. And so like we were just trying to like, TikTok kind of started at the time. This term virality and making viral content started being a conversation. So we were like kind of thinking of different ways that we can, you know, get attention online. And I remember Doug and I had this like conversation about how we should figure out something for our e-commerce customers, because everyone in Lancaster knows who we are. He said something like that. And I'm like, I'm the guy who is from Lancaster who doesn't know who they were before this interview. And I was like, dude, there's no way that everyone knows who you are. And it was kind of like, I don't know, it felt kind of like a bet a little bit. And so it started with Doug and Sarah and me on camera, just like knocking on people's doors and asking if they wanted to try a cookie. So that's how it started.
Wow.
And I think it was maybe like 10 reviews in, 10 posts that we did, that we got our first 1 million view video, which was super cool. That was a big milestone. And, you know, we went from 0 on TikTok to 185,000 or whatever. And just over the course of a few months. And that was super cool, because it was an idea that he and everybody else thought was stupid. And we were just like, you know, let's mess around and find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like, honestly, like my perception of you is that you will do what it takes to like get like the views and the eyes on like the content that you put out. And I think that's super special, because like, I think, you know, if you're posting so often, you only need 1 in every 10, 20 to be a hit.
Yeah.
But you strive for most of the content to be like up to your standard.
Yeah.
It's something that's really unique, actually. I feel like a lot of people put so much of their worth into every single post.
Mhm.
Like everyone is like, if this post does not get the 100 likes that I want it to, or the, 7,000 likes that I wanted to, or whatever that looks like, that I'm less of a person, or I've done not a good job.
Mhm.
But what's the strategy behind posting so often?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Taylor Chip definitely like beat that out of me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I was the guy who his Instagram grid was like super curated, and like I even had an app that like I'd upload the photos that I was thinking about posting to make sure that it would look good in my grid. And so this idea of posting 3 times a day was not something that I had like knew how to do. I was like,
Yeah.
I can barely post like once a day. Or
Where did
once a
that come
week.
from them?
Just like knowing, I mean, well, if one post does well, then 3 has to do well. So it's like, if you continue to post more, then you'll see more. There's still different key indicators that you have to look for when you're making content. You can't just like throw up anything.
Right.
So you still have to be intentional with what you're creating and how you're creating it. But as long as the content is decent, you should just put it up.
Yeah.
And I remember Doug would always tell me, he's like, done is better than perfect. That was my intro to this whole social media world.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of looked like me getting bored taking photos of cookies all the time.
Mm.
And I was like, I know.
Because that's what any small business would do.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, let's hire a photographer to get photos of our products.
Mhm.
And that's probably where it ends for a lot of marketing.
For
if
sure.
they're not hiring someone to do that.
Yeah. Especially if you're a small business, you just think look up your favorite companies. I mean, people are getting better. Businesses are getting better at it now. But like at the time, everyone's like just trying to sell you stuff all the time. And for us, and for me, like I always think that like people buy from people. And so we just wanted to like show the people that are behind it, have a little bit of fun. And that's how like the Man on the Street thing kind of came to be. And we kind of like evolved the idea from there. And
You also do a lot of like, you bring characters to life.
Mhm.
Like everyone can be a character in that whole brand story. And
Yeah.
so I've seen you go and talk to like I don't know, the dishwashers, the people that like go
Mhm.
in like the actual facilities and make them a character in your story.
Yeah.
And not even like, you're not leaving them out because they're
Mhm.
actually a part of that story as well.
Yeah. I think, in high school, I had a t-shirt company called Grizzly Prints, and the tagline was "Creativity's never tame." And this idea to me meant that like, there's no box that you can put creativity in. Everyone's creative in their own way. If you're a secretary or something, like there's something that you do every day that's still creative. And
Fully
so it's
believe
like
that as well.
Yeah. So there was just like, I just wanted to empower people just to like look at their day-to-day life and like appreciate some of like the things that they give to it, and it's kind of this similar thing with like Taylor Chip and like just the value of bringing people into it. Because sometimes you forget that people make up some of these companies that we buy from every single day.
Right.
And so when you can realize that like these people have families, these people have personality, it's not just like a label and a product, it's more than that. Then like more people are invested in
So many
like
hands
supporting
touch it before it goes out.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so cool how like people can come together and make something great.
Yeah.
And coming from like the music world, it's like a band. It's made up of 4 people, it's a guitar, drums, bass, keys, whatever. And it's like all of them on their own, they sound pretty cool, but like when you put them all together, they come up with their own name. They come up with a different name that like is the name for the entire group. And but there's still people within that group. So yeah, I just that's a focus for us, is always to make sure that the people are the main focus.
Do you did that come from anything specifically? Like what got you guys to the point where it's like, no, it can't just be Sarah or Doug or Cameron as the face of what we do here?
I think that's kind of like it. I think that all kind of happened naturally. There's a few accounts that I just enjoy watching, and they kind of had supporting characters, so to speak. And I love TV shows. I think that they're better than movies. And I love, how you can kind of like sit in people's worlds for an extended period of time, like in Grey's Anatomy, for instance, or like any of those like longer shows. I've never watched Friends or The Office, but I'm assuming they're similar. It's like you start
Don't
out.
look at the comments of this video, please.
Yeah, I've never watched The Office. Anybody? And I don't think I ever will.
Ooh, that's even hotter take.
I think I'm behind. I'm behind on that. So I don't think I'll ever watch it. But like, yeah, the first scene, like you have no idea who these people are, but you can't, is Michael Scott a character?
Yeah.
Okay. You can't follow Michael Scott the entire time unless he's super interesting.
Yeah.
And at some point he's going to interact with other people. And at some point people are going to question who these other people are.
Mhm.
So it just seemed natural that, you know, the more people we got, the stronger our team got. You should just highlight some of the supporting characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's also like more, if you want to break it down, like just more content. Like if Sarah and Doug are out doing stuff, you still have these people to mess with and not have to fully rely on that. Because in like the broader creator economy, if you think about like YouTubers or whatever, you think, no, that person is the brand. And if they have a team surrounding them, everyone relies on that person being in front of the camera to do that. And that's a very like, if you were to look at the funnel, it's like it all comes down to this person. Everyone relies on one person rather than the cast and, you know, whatever the other pyramid looks like.
Yeah, for sure. And like, yeah, you're seeing it now just with different businesses, with Prime or Mr. Beast or Ryan Trahan and his candy company, like any of those people. It's like the creators, I think Gary Vee said this the other day, but like he's saying he thinks that creators are more popular than NFL athletes, anyone like that. And I think that's like definitely true. And so Mr. Beast talks about how like he can't even find a brand deal anymore because his audience is just so big.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just a lot of value in building. Like you don't have to, it doesn't have to be called personal brand. Like that's, you know, some people have an issue with that term these days, but you know, you're making yourself kind of like your own celebrity, your own influencer for your company, because people want to see how things are made. And so if you're able to show that on your personal accounts or on your business accounts, like that's a huge win.
Yeah. I mean, even go in a separate sector of like mega churches and their pastors, like their pastors have a social media presence that are both apart from their organization, their church or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like focused more on that person. And those leaders can also exist outside of the confines of their like larger company or the business they associate with. And I feel like that only strengthens the opportunities that you have as an individual then.
Yeah.
Because you're not tied to what you are, you know, getting profits or making money or whatever from.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's opportunity to make money outside of that.
Yeah. And it's not easy for sure. And like, it's a slower burn a little bit, you know, and if you're a business and you're like wanting to, I don't know, talk to the camera more often or like try not to sell your product as often, it's like, it's a big jump. It's a lot of work. And yeah, there's some other like things that you have to consider when it comes to like the algorithm and how you, I guess, present the information or present yourself as a character to help grow. But if you're in the business to make money, you also have to keep that in the back of your brain too.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's a happy medium. But
how do you package so much content if you're posting 3 times a day or in so many different locations? Like, what does it take? How long does it take you to put together captions and edit? And I mean, what's more natural? Like, first of all, what do you like doing the most? Is it the shooting, editing, you know, packaging, presenting, or any of that? But then what is the actual commitment there?
Yeah, I really enjoy like just the idea portion of everything the most. Like my brain is just like always spewing with ideas. I dream about different ideas. It's just like there's always ideas. So I just like always have them in my notes or whatever. So I think like that's my favorite part. But then after that, it's just the post-production, whatever, of just like cutting it together and seeing like what you make of it. You know? Those are probably like my 2 favorite parts. But I mean, with posting like 3 times a day, it's like there is some like product stuff in there.
Sure.
And if you think about it, it's like, I don't know what your analytics are for your accounts, but like 5% of people maybe see a post that we post.
Right.
And so it's like a quantity over quality type of thing. We post the same thing in different ways. So we're recycling all the time.
Yeah.
And you're never going to catch it.
Yeah. It's so true though, because we've talked about this before on the pod of just like, it's totally okay for the reason of only 5% of the people are seeing. So if you repost it, 4 times even, like you're getting actually way more valuable out of the time that you put into each post.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that like I've had to learn over time, but it's like, just like get stuff out there.
Yeah.
Like I know so many like creative friends who just like want to make pretty stuff. And it's like,
and then they put it out there and
you
only 5 people see it or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, who are you? Like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, are you looking to make this a career? Because if you're looking to make it your career and like what's going to make you money, then you need to be making different decisions about how you're promoting yourself. And sometimes it's like they're posting one post to like promote a song or an album. It's like, no one's going to see that. No. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's so much stuff and the creative people just don't want to do that because it feels like it's a hit against their like creativity or their mystique. Yeah. Everything's precious. And like, you can still be that person. Like Frank Ocean, I always think is like a cool example because he's like a super successful artist and he's one of the best writers ever. But in terms of like social media and stuff, he's like kind of like this mysterious character in a little way, in some ways. And it's kind of like you can still be that if you want, but you still have to kind of,
I mean, you have to get to the point where you can be Frank Ocean to be mysterious for people to like kind of hang on to your every word.
No, I think you still can, but you can be mysterious while still posting like more often.
That's fair.
And like trying to make something out of it. I don't know. It's like, that's my biggest like frustration with like any small artist or creator. It's like they hold their ideas and their work so close to their chest. And the unfortunate part is like no one's going to ever hear it or see it if you do that. And so you really have to like do everything you can to amplify your message and what you want to get across to people.
Promoting is hard, right? And we all know this just in general. And a lot of people are photographers that start a photography page. And I feel like I say this every podcast, but like just be consistent. It's the hardest thing you could possibly do.
Yeah. Because
people are like, get the idea that they're photographers and totally are, but don't post. They like make a post, make an Instagram post, make an Instagram page and just like post for a month and then drop off.
Yeah.
And man, it just eats my soul that happens and they don't keep going. Part of like promoting silo events is knowing that I'm going to have to post like 7 times for even half my audience to even see that the post is happening.
Right.
Even if that main announcement post, which I try to like ride everything on, you know, that the one thing that people outside of Silo actually would post is that graphic that is either not catching enough, like eye catching enough, so no one sees it because it's a graphic on Instagram, or whatever. I ride a lot on shares on that. So like that first initial post is like all about like share with your friends that this is happening. And knowing then that I'm going to take that's going to be like a month before the event or something like that. And that I'll take a step back for like a week, let the shares kind of keep rolling, let the wave of that going. But then really kick it into high gear when like it's 2 weeks out from the event, knowing that I'm going to have to promote it like every other day for this 2 weeks out and then every day for like the week leading up to it. And that's something that I've learned or like have grown into as of just this year of like week of, I'm like, I have to post every day. And that's hard for me, at least, knowing that I have to provide value, but also just keep letting the call to action be come to this event.
Yeah.
And it's a really challenging thing to get out of my head, especially when I have to show my face I don't have to, but show my face for every one of those videos to get people to actually like care about it. And now I've seen results in that because now at these events, everyone's like, yeah, the videos. That's what, like, I just saw that like the week of, and I didn't see your announcement post. Like you said, I should have saw, but seeing the videos of you jumping in the middle of the field, being all wacky and weird, like that's what actually got me to see it. And I'm like, you're kidding. I posted this like a month ago. You should have known about this.
Yeah.
But those videos week of that I find annoying because I'm posting every day.
Yeah.
It's like such an interesting thing that's both like not intuitive, but also makes sense in the like social media landscape.
But you're also like in an interesting position too, because it is an in-person event.
Yeah.
So you're not really worried about views too much. You
Sure.
want people to show up. So like your audience is definitely more localized.
Yeah.
You know,
that's fair.
and it's kind of funny. Like the way we got connected was because of that.
Yeah.
It's like just people sharing that are in my circle that shared like probably. How long have we kind of known of each other? Was that maybe a year and a half, whatever? Yeah.
I would say 2 might be stretching it, but yeah.
But like when
We probably connected like last summer.
Yeah, and when those captures started like popping off and stuff, I would get like those shares through people that I follow. And that's how I found you guys initially. And I think that that's like the key thing is like you are creating things that your community cares about and wants to share.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing that, like you could post maybe a little bit less, because like every single time you post, you don't have just you sharing, you have you and thousands of other people who are sharing it. So I think like, yeah, when you're thinking about what to create, it's like, think about like what your community wants.
Yeah.
And then also it's like the reason why you want to post as often as you can is because you even if you go to your followers, you can see like the accounts that you least interact with.
Right.
And
if you guys don't know about that,
so if
you should look.
So if you're the guy who only posts like once in a while, you're going to show up in like people's least interacted, because there's other people that they follow that are posting more throughout the month or whatever. And so when you do have that song come out, or you do have that event, you want people to show up, and now you finally have this beautiful photo or whatever that you're going to post, people won't see it because you've already been like knocked down in their feed. So
I think that's big with like music artists too. Like not posting enough about their stuff, or like they just post information, and information I feel like on Instagram does not do well.
Yeah.
Like artists that actually post like the reason why this album is coming out, or like what made me want to write this song, is actually way more interesting than you just singing the song.
Yeah. You got to provide value somehow.
Yeah.
And I think I love artists because there's just, you have this song, but there's just so many layers to how it came to be and how it was created. It's the same thing with everything, really. And so it's like, share that on your stories, put it in a private group, put it somewhere where you can build a community that will amplify your mission in some way. So
it's such a, Instagram is just the weirdest place sometimes. But to get back to Taylor Chip, at what point is it disingenuous to like post so often? Do you ever get to, I mean, I'm sure there are moments where you get to a point where I'm just creating this moment or this for social, and it's less of a like a fly on the wall moment, if that makes sense. Well, at what point does like the fabrication of content, if you ever get there, become like disingenuous in your head? It doesn't have to be Taylor Chip, but in general.
What do you mean by like everything's real?
Yeah, but if if you had to bring 2 people together in a room that didn't interact normally, at what point does that not serve you guys correctly? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, well, 5% or less people see your content every day.
Yeah.
So if you're just, I think it doesn't really matter too much. And you're always going, as long as you are asking or filming questions that like you're curious about yourself and getting those answers from people, if it's content, or telling a story or whatever, it's like, as long as you're curious about it, there's other people that are going to be curious about it. So I don't think that we're ever forcing content for the sake of content. I think it's always natural. There's always there's some reason to it, you know? So there's a lot of value in, I guess, just being honest with your audience a little bit. And,
I think you guys do a really good job about
and not like
that.
trying to manufacture anything.
Yeah.
You know? And there's and if you post a lot, like the personal branders, will understand. It's like everyone thinks that they're like projecting, or like they have some type of insecurity, and that's why they're posting a lot. But it's like you have to stay relevant for people to like know that you are the option whenever they have a need to fill.
Right.
And so you have to post all the time.
Right. And
if
that's
you
what
see
I'm
that,
getting at. I'm like, at what point does filming stuff in your daily life for content become not who you want to be, you know?
I mean, if a musician creates a song and like everyone takes it the wrong way, like I feel like that's on the viewer.
Yeah.
At the end
Fair.
of the day, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just you're gonna keep going regardless. And it's funny because it's like you get a lot of hater. The more you post, the bigger you get, the more haters you just naturally get.
Right.
But it's crazy because like if someone's hating on the content that you post or like whatever, it's only because they interact with it so much.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
like
fair.
your haters are
Like,
kind of your biggest fans.
yeah.
Like the algorithm's definitely not going to, like the algorithm wants you to stay on the platform. So it's not going to give you stuff that you have no interest in.
Mhm.
So if you keep on getting my videos, you must be a closet fan or something.
Yeah, there's some level of passion in one direction or the other.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, yeah, I just don't take that. Me creating the content, I just try not to take that responsibility of like, oh, I hope I don't come off right or whatever, because I know in my heart, like I'm always just trying to explain what is happening.
Yeah.
And that's it.
You don't only do social stuff for them. You also like focus on strategy and other like facets of marketing.
Yeah.
What else do you do there?
Yeah, I think, marketing is a funnel. You have the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and then the bottom of the funnel. So we kind of, there's people who work alongside us, Doug, as well, doing like the ads and whatnot. But, I do the marketing for them, some traditional advertising. And then whenever we like launch new flavors or open new locations, I'm like part of that activation. And then, working with different influencers or UFC athletes or whatever, when those opportunities just right come around, we did get our cookies to Patty the Batty, just saying.
Hey, yo,
which was pretty cool.
That's sick.
But yeah, it's always just like outreach, really.
Yeah.
It's just a big part of my job.
You also, I think something that I found really cool was that when you guys were like reaching out to get your cookies in different stores too, you let your audience almost do the work for you.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Right. Well, yeah, that was just a fun little thing. So like for the people who don't know, we're getting into wholesale. So we're selling our cookies, at a grocery store or a cafe or whatever. And, you have a sales team that could maybe go out and knock on doors and just, cold call basically and try to get in. Or you could post a post saying, we're looking to get into wholesale. What are some of your favorite cafes that we should check out? And we'll pick one of them to give like a free box to. And then like 500 people commented their favorite coffee shops. And so now those coffee shops are getting DMs from you or DMs from other people. And so you're going to check out that post and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I was actually looking for a cookie. And then they reach out. And so, that's really like kind of launched our wholesale program, kind of just putting it in the hands of the community to tell us where we should go. And I think that's super valuable because now we're not just like running around with chickens with their heads cut off trying to find the right people. We're getting in front of those people from their customers and being able to start like a natural conversation like, hey, 50 people commented and said we should sell our cookies here. What do you think? And like, they're not going to turn that down. If the people want it, that's what the people get.
And that only brings more people into their stores, even if it is just for your cookies.
Yeah. And that's like, it's not like an ulterior motive.
No.
I'm just like trying to figure out what to post, and.
But it works.
An
like,
idea
I think
comes
that was just
up. Yeah.
so like such a cool way to engage with the community, but then also have them help you do like, they know what they want, right? So like, hey, Copper Cup's just down the road from me. I would love to not have to drive to 20 minutes to get to your Taylor Ship location or wherever that is. I'd rather go here.
Yeah. And I think the moral of the story is like, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
It's like wherever you are, whatever you're doing, there's someone around you or in your community, one or two people away that you could probably ask to help you through like whatever you're doing. And if you have a community, like if you have friends and family, or a community of people who support what you're doing, you might as well like ask them because they're following and engaging with you and supporting you because they like what you do and they only want to see you succeed. So you might as well just ask whenever you have questions. So if I'm talking to the sales guy or anyone on the team in maybe another department, and they're like, hey, it would be great if we do this or have this, or I'm struggling with this. It's like, oh, well, is there a way that we can like loop our community into this? Is there someone that we can ask that we know, and those are the questions that you should always ask yourself when you're making content.
It also builds community with even just builds the relationship deeper with the person that you're going to ask the question to.
Yeah.
It's like, cause you could just go above their head or around and ask anyone, but you're deciding, hey, you might have something super valuable that we could work together on or talk about, even if it's just, hey, your friend does this, can you introduce me? Or whatever that looks like.
Well, it's also easy to come off as if like, what you're talking about a lot of the times too. Doing stuff for Silo. Like, I'm sure there's areas where you could always use help.
Yeah.
But someone could be like, oh, this guy's like, he's a professional at video or interviews or whatever. It's like, but in the back of your head, you're like, I'm not the best. They're like, there's definitely something that I could improve on.
Yeah.
And some people are just scared to like ask their community for help, because then it seems like it's almost like, it feels like they're belittling themselves a little bit by asking someone for help.
I was going to say too, it's like, there's a level of like taking off the layers of like just being like able to be humble or like open about your business. Like, I think letting people know that you have a deficiency in one area is not a bad thing. It only gets people to like love that area of you more, potentially, which brings back more like brand awareness, but also like deep like love for what you're doing. It allows people to like attach themselves to that a little bit more. You feel more human as a brand when you're not just only putting out super polished, amazing stuff. Hey, we've got this thing coming up next week. It's going to be brand new when we have it all figured out. Like when you can be like, we're going to throw this together. It might suck. It might be great.
Yeah.
And the next one will be 2 times, 10 times as better because we've done it once.
And brand building is like the same thing as character development in movies or a TV show. It's like, think about all the characters that you know and love, and then ask yourself like why you like them. And it's probably because you see a bit of yourself in them in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like the triumph, the thing that they've gotten through, their experiences, the way they interact with other people, like those are all things that when you share that side of yourself, or the directors and the actors share that side of that character, you're more, you just fall in love with them so much more, because you're like, oh, they're just like me.
Yeah. The relatability factor is like huge in brands. And I think you guys do a good job. Is there anything else with relatability that you guys strive for at Taylor Chip?
That's a good question. I think it's easy. It's easy to look at numbers or success or like locations or things that you're doing as like, oh, they're making it, or they're doing it, or they don't need any help, or like, like every day is still a grind. Like, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Some people think that like once you get a few followers or whatever, that they must be just rolling in dough, just hanging out. They got it all figured out. And it's like every day you have no idea what's going to happen. You're learning every single day.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's probably, when I look at big accounts, I'm like, dude, that's a large responsibility, because not only do you have to keep your 50K, your engagement, percentage decently high. Like, there is so much like ghost followers and stuff that comes with that. I feel like that, like, sure, you could have 50K, 100K or whatever, but knowing that you only get like even less than like the 1% or 5% that you want to actually engage with your content, I feel like that just scales up even more as you have like larger accounts.
Yeah.
Whereas like at 3,000 or whatever we have now, I'm like, I feel like the same, like a good number of people are like looking. But if I feel like if I get to 5K, I'm like, it might even drop off if I'm not producing value to everyone consistently.
Yeah. I mean, the numbers don't matter.
That's very fair.
I'm whatever. I'm creative director, whatever my title is. And I do look at the numbers, but I try not to let them have too much control over me or my thought process, maybe because I'll get too in my head about it. And then that could cripple you and prevent you from like doing just good work and continuing to do your best. But yeah, I just try to like be consistent
Yeah.
regardless, you know.
It's all about like just doing that.
Yeah, consistency. That's the number one thing. And if you are consistent and you have dedicated yourself to doing it and improving and growing throughout whatever you're doing, it's going to work at some point. So yeah, we're always just like learning and evolving and not trying to let anything.
Yeah.
get
How
in
did
the
you
way.
get to that mindset? Is that something that you've learned over time? Is that something that like was just instilled in you from your childhood? Is there any upbringing that like got you to the point of like, listen, it is what it is, and if I stick to my goals or stick to whatever I set out for myself, that's what matters.
I think like growing up, I was the oldest of 11. I think that's usually an interesting place to start.
Yeah. Get your oohs and ahs out now.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. So my parents, I have some the step or biological siblings, and then my parents also had foster and adopt some kids. So that's where the 11 comes from. They didn't all come from my parents, but yeah, they've been in my family. So my brothers and sisters, they'd come to us as babies or as young toddlers to their family.
Sure.
But with that, I think being the oldest, you're not. It's not like out of neglect, but you're kind of like, once you're able to like go to the bathroom by yourself and figure out like how to ride your bike to the football practice, and you're self-sufficient in that way, there's littler kids that maybe need a little bit more attention. And so like, I don't know, this is where my brain always goes, but I've like learned to like always, it's up to me to kind of like make or break like whatever I want to do. And so when it comes to like this mindset, like I'm my biggest critic, and I'm always looking to improve and become a better person. And so that's always going to drive me to try different things and to like never give up and not care too much about what's going on around me.
Yeah.
Which is a blessing and a curse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about the curse side of it.
Well, when I get focused on something, I got my blinders on. It's hard to take me off of it. I have a wife and a kid and another one on the way. And so sometimes I just like fall in love with this idea and I just need to see it to the end. And sometimes my brain is in la la land for a little bit until my brain kind of like figures out,
Yeah.
the solution or whatever.
I feel like I just asked you the interview question of like, what is your biggest weakness? And you're just like, oh, I'm just really committed to stuff.
I get super committed. That's for sure. And like maybe committed to too many things at the same time just because I have so many ideas. But I've, over time, I've kind of learned to prioritize and to budget my time appropriately. Being a father now and all of that stuff, it's really put some things into perspective with time. So I'm definitely getting better at, looking at life as more of a marathon and not a sprint, and not trying to be like, so quick to like get somewhere.
Sure.
Just trying to do my best with everything that I do.
Yeah. You have what's in front of you. Like you have what's in front of you and you can set goals for the future.
Yeah.
And then figure it out in between.
Yeah. 100%.
I think what else in that marathon are you looking forward to? Like what's next? What are you working on right now that you are planting the seeds for, that you're looking forward to like growing?
Yeah. I think right now there's just a lot going on in my life.
I think wife having a kid soon is a priority.
Yeah, that's a very big priority. We're also like renovating my attic so that I don't have to have an office that's in a coat closet and the baby still has somewhere to sleep. But my sister is still currently living in that room where my baby's going to be in any moment now. And on top of that, like I'm planning grand opening events for Taylor Chip Philadelphia. And all of that seems like it's happening at the same exact time.
The wall's closing in on you.
The wall is closing in and I can feel it every single day. But I think like right now, I hate like the mundane things of life. Where I hate being like feeling like I'm stuck in like a simulation. Yeah. Like I wake up, say hi to the kid, leave for the day. Like I feel like I open and close my eyes in a second sometimes. And I hate that. And as a younger kid getting married young and like kind of like starting this like very routine life, that's always been a struggle. And so in my younger 20s, like I was always trying to like get somewhere else. Like I was never present. And I think on this like marathon topic, I'm just trying really hard to be more present with like the things that I give my attention to and my energy to. And just like trusting that like God will take care of the rest, honestly. So that's my journey currently.
Yeah.
Is to, maybe slow down a little bit. That's scary. I don't like saying that. I don't want to, slowing down.
Ooh,
seems
that's a
like
scary word.
Slowing down feels like I'm about to die, honestly. There's a quote from Ben Franklin, I think, who says, most people die when they're 22, but they get buried at 70. It's like this idea that like a lot of people just like stop.
Yeah. That keeps you going.
Yeah. And that keeps me going. Like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die yet. Like,
I
still have a lot of life to live.
Yeah. You're worried about the regrets that you would have if you were to slow down now.
Yeah. 100%. And it's not like I'm looking at anyone else or anyone else's successes or whatever. Like for me personally, I just like have places and things that I want to accomplish in my
there's
life.
so much still life to live.
Yeah. And like when I know the average life expectancy, it's like, it's so crazy. Like you just have that shot clock all the time. So it's really hard for me to sometimes just like come back to earth and be like, it's okay that you only have 75 more years to live or whatever.
Right.
It's just like, let's focus on today. And my brain is sometimes like so macro that I lose sight on like the smaller picture, I guess.
There's so much, like, even for myself reflecting, like there's so much life to live in one day that it isn't defined by like your to-do lists. Your day's almost defined by the small interactions that you have with like your kids or your wife or, a friend that you meet or the coffee shop barista that you like want to talk to or whoever. Like if you like sit back and like look at it, even if you're looking at it from like a macro perspective, like there's so much life to live in every single day. Yeah. It's just that gets so glossed over when you're like, oh yeah, I have a project due at the end of the month. I got to get 2 more clients to pay these bills and whatever. As a creative, I feel like it's so different than if you were to actually pause.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I think like a thing for me is like I try not to plan my life around a 24-hour period, because if I do that, like there's no way I'm going to get everything done that I need to get done in 24 hours. Like I have to sleep for a quarter of those. So it's like, why don't you like, what's a longer span of time that we could maybe work with? So for me, it's like a week. Make sure that I work out, make sure I spend time with family, make sure I like have time to work, for a time for me to be by myself in some way. You can do all of that when you have more time to work with. Yeah. And so it's easy to look at your days and be like, oh, like I didn't get to do this or that. But like block out and budget your time maybe throughout a week or 2 weeks or a month. And you'll feel a big difference with just, how much you're able to do in such a little amount of time.
How long did it take you to get to a point where you thought of it that way?
Probably like 1.5 years, 2 years into like working for Taylor Chip. Probably is when I started figuring that out. And I think that was just because I was working. I got excited. Like I got a job like making videos and stuff, and I got super excited. And I would like, work 8 to 5, 8 to 6 or whatever, and then go home, spend some time with family, and then I'd work again making videos until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And I was like, I was just grooving in that. And then, that can't last forever. You kind of burn yourself out. And so I realized that, if I want to do this and if I want to do it well, I need to be making sure that I'm spending time for myself, which for me is like my mental health super important. And I help that through working out and making sure that I'm showing up for myself in that way. And then obviously showing up for family more and friends. And it was, there was a time there where I was just grinding it out, and I was just like always tired, but I was having the time of my life. Yeah. But then you get to a point where you're like, you can't do this forever.
Comes in seasons.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's probably when my wife surprised me with the pregnancy, the first pregnancy swab or whatever. Yeah. It's like, holy schmoly. Things got real. So, but no, it's honestly a blessing. And, you're capable of way more than you think you are.
Mike, freaking
Yeah,
drop.
way more. So I think it's, you just have to be honest with yourself and do your best every day.
Talk to me more about like fitness.
Yeah.
Because I think that, believe it or not, it plays a lot more into creativity than I think a lot of people realize.
Well, before I give my answer, what's your answer to that? Why do you think it gives more creativity?
I think it brings clarity. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think one of them is actually being off your devices or being away from like stimuli. Because for me, big like nature guy. So like when I go on runs or walks, if I have the opportunity, I go in like nature where it just feels like you are actually disconnecting. And I think for a lot of like photo video creators, a lot of the time we're so locked up in our like editing caves, even if it's, 6 to 8 hours a day or even like late into the night because you got to get the project done or whatever.
Yeah.
So the word I would use is clarity, and I think it just gets the distractions out of your life.
Yeah.
I think also in the like creative process, it's just truly something you need. In the same way that like you have shower thoughts, I think you can have like workout thoughts.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely such thing as a runner's high.
Yeah.
No, I think for me, on the fitness conversation, so I'm a very like boring person, and let me explain that. So it's not just fitness that like helps with creativity for me. My diet is super strict. I eat the same thing every single day, which is a pound of ground beef and maybe some quinoa and vegetables. For lunch and dinner, I intermittent fast every day. And then I have like the same beverages, which is like coffee in the morning and then water.
Okay.
And then can't forget.
Keep it going.
You can't forget the banana and peanut butter to wrap up the
That's
evening.
a good combo.
Yes, that is the best combo. And I'm fine eating that every single day.
Yeah.
And then I literally wear black all the time.
Yeah.
And like I don't put too much thought into like what I'm wearing ever.
Yeah. The Steve Jobs, like minimalist, less decisions kind of feel.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other reasons, but especially for like the clothing, I feel like for me too.
And so basically like I'm trying to, on this clarity conversation, like I'm trying to take as much like decision making out of like my day-to-day routine to leave as much bandwidth available for the things that like I'm working towards and that are more important to me than like what flavors are on my food or like what I'm craving or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I've just like completely, kind of like simplified everything. And then on the workout thing, like I grew up an athlete and working out every single day in high school, college, that kind of thing. And then you get to be an adult and you kind of taper off usually. And you're like, oh man, I'm wondering why like I'm getting so stressed out. Like, oh yeah, maybe my life is a little bit different. I'm married now. I have kids now. I have a full-time job. Maybe there's so much newness in your early 20s that like maybe that's what's stressing me out. But then I was like, you know what? Like I need to go. Like when I was my happiest, I was like working out, often. And so it's like before I was on anxiety meds for a little while, but then I got to the point where it's like I don't want to do that either. I want to stay as natural as possible. So like medicine's not something that was an option for me anymore. And so, I was like, got back into a routine of working out 5 to 6 times a day. And like, that's like changed everything. And like, it started obviously with, podcasting. How else could I distract myself or learn something so I'm not like quote unquote wasting time?
Yeah.
But the clarity that you're talking about is when it's just you and the road or you and the nice walk through the mountains or whatever. It's just like for you to just be with yourself, to hear nature, to hear your own thoughts, and just like kind of detox from like everything that's going on around you. And so now it's like I've changed my workout routine a little bit because of being a father, but now I go to a gym and like work out for an hour with the trainer 3 times a week. And then I also run 2 times or whatever a week. And like those times are just completely like disconnected. It's just me fighting me. And like, that just offers so much like clarity to myself. And I think too, like that has to do with who humans are like built to be. Like,
right.
I don't want to throw Adam and Eve into this, but was Adam and Eve like sitting on their computer swiping Instagram 24/7, or were they out like trying to figure out how to feed themselves for the day?
Yeah.
And how much physical endurance was involved before we had like all of this stuff.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting we all go back to living caveman lives, but we got to move our bodies. We need to put ourselves under some form of stress. I'm not talking about working overtime. Like your body is built to like be under a large amount of stress. And so if you're able to do that, then your body's able to create the necessary chemicals it needs to feed your creativity, your positivity, your overall outlook on life. And I think honestly, if you work out, you're a better person.
Oh, 100%. I
Get rid of soda, please.
Oh, dude. I mean, I don't like soda, so I'm already like kind of pre-qualified for that. But yeah, like sugars and all that stuff. That's a whole other conversation.
Eliminate stuff. One thing I'll touch on before we have to wrap this up is on the food topic. Definitely, if you have a partner or you live with someone, not everyone not everyone just wants to eat chicken and rice every day. Sometimes there's some compromises. So our deal is there's no soda, no other drinks except for water in the house. And but then if we go out for dinner and I like grab a drink or a beer or whatever, then she's allowed to have a soda. That's the contract. Dude,
that's good though.
But at the end of the day, life's all about compromises, and I love to indulge every once in a while. But
that's natural. Yeah.
Yeah. But discipline equals freedom. And that's kind of like my biggest life lesson in my 20s was just like, giving yourself some rails and sticking to those. Sticking to that path. Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, with the clarity aspect, and honestly, mic drop after that, but here I am chiming in, the clarity, like you versus you, actually makes you a better person. And when you don't have that, when you're on autopilot thinking about what's next and you aren't challenging yourself or aren't asking the question of, did I treat that person right in this conversation? And like you don't have that like one-on-one time debrief with yourself on like the way home from a hangout with a friend or whatever.
Yeah.
You just like immediately put on a podcast or listen to your favorite song or whatever, watch a YouTube video and just constantly stimulating yourself. It's like, when do you ever have time to like sharpen your own brain?
Yeah.
Even if it is like a motivational speaker speaking life into your life on a podcast. It's like, did Austin say that? Or did, Gary Vee say that? And there's some like discernment that you have to do with all of that a lot of people don't spend time with themselves anymore. And I think that's a detriment.
Sure. Yeah. Every morning for like the last 2 years, I film a video journal on the way to work. And sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes. That's probably why I have no storage on my phone. But it's just like me talking to me / praying. And looking back at like what I was sounding like and what I was talking about and cared about 2 years ago versus now is insane. But like, there's also a lot of value in just like having that, time with yourself, talk to yourself, whatever you got to do. But it's you against you at the end of the day. So
did you, in those journals, did you have any like goals for creativity that made it into real life nowadays?
I mean, something I'm always praying about is just to be content and and not trying to get too far ahead of myself and where I'm at in life, and understanding that things take time. So that's a consistent theme all the time, especially in the morning when you wake up and your brain starts to go a million miles a minute with everything that you could be doing that day. You really got to just like slow down and remind yourself that like, things happen brick by brick, and it'll happen as long as you focus and put your head down. So
is there any advice that you would give to a younger creative, a younger Cameron that would bring them more up to speed at an earlier age and bring them just insane amounts of like hope?
I mean, just do it. Because if you're a creative person, you have ideas. So whatever they are, just do it. Try, fail, try and fail again. Because really at the end of the day, it's like, when it comes to ideas, no one's going to know them unless you share them with people. You don't know if they're going to work or not unless you try. So if you consider yourself a creative person and you have yet to like try one of your creative ideas, I would say you're not a creative person anymore. And if you want to be a creative person, you need to be open to failing. Over and over again.
It's not about the the sharing of that. It's about the doing of the
No,
practice.
I'm not even I'm not even talking about
yeah.
posting on Instagram.
Exactly.
It's like that could be the last thing that you think about. But
Right.
like you need to
You
hit
have to-
export on something. You need to set up that photo shoot for that like model concept that you had in your head. You have to do whatever those ideas are that float through your brain every single day and that you just like literally just obsess over it, but you never do. Like you need to just try to bring those ideas to life.
Yeah. And even if it's like a large concept, it's like you have to take that first step.
Yeah. If it's a large like if you think you're going to make a Hollywood movie, I mean, you could try. I guess you could work on it for the next 10 years if you want. Or you could just like create a short that has that same story or those same elements in it. Just get reps trying as much as you can.
Learn, make, repeat.
Learn, make, and repeat.
Well, Cameron, thank you for being on the pod.
Thanks
Really
for having me.
appreciate it.
Dude, I gotta say, like, following Silo and you and everybody for the last year or 2 years or whatever, what you guys are doing, super sweet. And
Thank you.
yeah, it's amazing to have a community of creators supporting one another. And so yeah, just appreciate being on.
Always here to support you too.
Seeing you do your thing.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
All
same.
right.
One more thing. Do I have a few seconds left? I just
get it.
Oh my goodness. This is the bathrooms. The bathrooms here.
Talk to me about
So
the
I was-
bathrooms, Cameron.
Yeah, I want this to be a clip. So I just went to the bathroom here and I freaking walked in. It says this is not a urinal, but I swear it looks like a water trough, like that you'd find at a football game that you just like pee into.
Yeah.
And obviously they've had problems.
There is a sign.
if there's a
Been
sign.
problems.
So I just hope that someone puts a photo up here so you can see what it looks like. And if you agree with me, comment below.
Boom. There it is. Dude, it's so real.
It is
right?
weird. And then I was like, where's the water?
Oh, wait.
And then I found the stepper.
Yeah.
You never washed your hands, did you?
No. I thought when you went to the bathroom.
Talk about it,
Yeah. When I went to the bathroom before our first conversation with Pete,
Yeah.
and I went in there, I stood there for 2 minutes. Like, not even kidding.
Just like-
I was like, there is a scrubber. I'm like, do I need
Dude,
do I need to move it and press something?
I was looking on the ceiling, just like waiting for something.
It's
but
so real.